I've got some insights and clarifications about the whole Charlie Kirk situation, some things that we know, and some clarifications of things that have supposedly come out that are incorrect. I've had some members of the church, or past members who've left, who I mentioned some of this on social media, and they said, oh, I didn't know that, because it's been a change in the last few years. So first, let's talk about geography and locations. So there is no Utah University. That does not exist. There are a lot of universities that have Utah in the name, and that gets confusing. Tyler Robinson grew up in Washington, which is within Washington County, but Washington is its own city. It's a small city in southwest Utah. And he then got a full tuition scholarship, the presidential scholarship, to Utah State University, USU, Utah State University, which is on the freaking other side of the state. It's totally the far north. We know he went there for one semester in 2021. It sounds like he graduated from high school that same year, went to probably fall semester. I think they call it something else. I think they call it winter up there. Anyway, it's a little nerve-wracking. There's a picture of him in his little dorm that semester, and I'm like, I recognize that apartment area because that's the honors housing. I had a kid who lived in honors housing, so not when he was there. But then he did not come back to school after that. We don't know why, but assuming he is LDS, and it seems like he is, it's likely that he would have gone on his mission at that point if he's still doing the culturally acceptable things and so forth. It's very common for young men to do a semester or two of school and then go. It was more common back in the day when you had to be 19, and that's something else I've seen people say, oh, the missionaries go when they're 19. That used to be the case. Several years ago, they changed it, about 10 plus years ago, they changed it so that young men can leave at 18. Young women had to wait till they were 21, and now they can leave at 19. If he did one semester and then went on his mission, that means he would have gone on his mission probably early 22, and then would have come home somewhere in 2024. He's probably been home a year plus. If he went on a mission, we don't know. But he did not go back to Utah State University. He went then to a school that's way down south, close to where he grew up. And that would be what used to be known as a Dixie College, or Dixie State College in St. George. Oh, it's very close to Washington. From what I understand, he is doing like an electrician type apprenticeship. One source I saw thought he was in his third year of it, which would then mean he didn't go on a mission. But I think they were just doing the math of since USU. I don't think we know for sure. It's called Dixie State because southern Utah is hot. Back in the late 1800s, they even tried to grow cotton there, kind of like the South. But because of the connotations of Dixie, all the slave era stuff, a couple of years ago, they said, well, how about we ditch the name, and now it's Utah Technical College. So what was Dixie State College in St. George is now Utah Technical College, just to add to the confusion. So up north in Logan, we have Utah State University. People have been saying that is the most conservative college in the state, and not even remotely true. That would be BYU. Brigham Young University in Provo, which is about 2.5 hours drive south of Logan. Logan is still rather conservative, but there are pretty deep pockets of liberal stuff as well. It's not across the board. They're definitely a more liberal college. I have a friend who went to BYU at first, hated it, went to Utah State, and it was such a good fit. And she's definitely one of the more liberal friends that I have in Utah. For what that's worth. People are bringing that up as if like his one semester at Utah State could have radicalized him, and they're like, haha, the most conservative university. Yeah, right. It's not. So once you get to, so there's Utah State University, go down to Salt Lake itself. That is the most liberal university in the state. That's University of Utah. It's right in Salt Lake. Then you go a little farther south. That's when we get Utah Valley University, and that's where all of this took place. Utah Valley University is in Orem. Brigham Young University is in Provo. They're next door to each other. I find it interesting that Robinson decided to do this at Utah Valley University because Charlie Kirk was scheduled to be at Utah State University on September 30th. And ostensibly, he would know that campus very well. Granted, UVU is closer to home, but I suspect he chose UVU because it would be easier in his mind to get away and not be caught. And I'll explain that in just a second. Then in Cedar City, which is almost about, well, I think 45, 60-ish miles north of St. George, there's Southern Utah University. It's kind of away from the Wasatch Front. It's pretty close to Vegas. It's pretty close to the Arizona border. So it tends to have a bit more of a diverse student body. So I think that he chose Utah Valley University because of how it's set up, and it's how easy it would be for him to get away. I'll show you a map of campus and kind of how it's situated within the city. I heard one journalist describe it as very rural, which is hilarious. No, it's not. It's very suburban. It's not metropolitan. It's not like a big city, but there are 40,000 students at UVU, and that's not counting the rest of the city. And then BYU, literally next door, has about the same number of students and a much bigger population as well. This is not rural. But that particular journalist had just driven, I think from Texas or somewhere, up through Utah. So I'm sure he saw a lot of farmland and stuff that legitimately is rural, but Orem is not rural. Utah Valley University, the I-15 freeway borders it almost exactly on the left. It's right there. And if you see my little map here, there is a road that actually goes completely around the university. You can drive an entire loop around. It's called Campus Drive, and where the dot I put there, that is a traffic circle roundabout. So if you're from there, you can hit northbound or southbound freeway within 30 seconds. A little longer or southbound if you hit the light wrong, but it's very quick. Had a very quick getaway anywhere on campus, wherever you happen to be. And Campus Drive isn't just stuck to itself. It branches off. You can get off into neighboring streets and neighborhoods, which is what it looks like he did. Some of the early video footage that we got, it looked like he may have been on the Sparks Automotive building, but he was actually on the Losi building, which is behind that, farther north. So it probably was just that he was visible on the roof from one other building away. Here's the map of UVU, what it looked like. He was there. I put the star where he was, the X where we thought maybe he was, and he actually was not. The purple triangle is the quad where it went down where Charlie was. And then you see the little arrow, that's where he took off to run, when he jumped off the roof of the Losi building and kept going. You see it across the news. Oh, he discarded the weapon in the woods or in a wooded area. And there are no wooded areas. Number one, this is a desert. Number two, the closest thing to a wooded area might be the Provo River Trail, but that's still a ways out from UVU. What are they even talking about? And then you go to Provo Canyon, and that you get Sundance and skiing stuff and into the mountains. But that wouldn't be a quick place to just discard a weapon. So I have issues with Governor Cox's press conference speech that he gave today after announcing that the shooter had been caught. But he did say one thing correct. He did not call it a wooded area. He said it was an area with grass and trees, which is far more accurate. A couple of residents from that neighborhood that I interacted with on social media, one of them sent a Google Maps with a pin of exactly where there was a video taken, and he knows that exact spot because he lives right there, of where the police were searching and then found the weapons. And because as you can see, it's very close to campus. He could have easily just run off that direction there and then discarded it and kept running to wherever he had parked the car, and then get onto Campus Drive, go whatever loopy direction he needs to get on the freeway and head home, which now we know would have been south toward Washington. If you wanted to go north to just throw people off, you could do that too. Once you get off campus, that road keeps going. You can keep going north. About another half mile or so, there's another freeway on-ramp there. So he could have done either one. Another element that I think may have factored into his decision to use UVU is the fact that many of the buildings on campus are interconnected. There are tunnels and hallways that connect the buildings. Like you'll be walking along and suddenly you're in a different building and didn't realize you'd left. This is convenient in the winter and that kind of thing, obviously, but I wonder if that factored into his decision, because he could have entered in one area and left in a completely different part of campus and never gone outside and not been seen by exterior security cameras. Maybe that factored into him thinking he could get away with it. Another element of note I've heard people talking about is, well, he's not registered as a Republican, therefore we don't know his political leanings. And I want to clarify, and I've mentioned this in another video on my rant mode channel, don't freak out if you look up someone you thought was liberal and they're registered Republican in Utah. I'm one of them. The reason is because in Utah, it is so freaking gerrymandered. The GOP primary is the most important election ever. Whoever wins the GOP primary is pretty much who's going to win the general election. And the Republican Party here made a rule that if you are not registered Republican, you cannot vote in the Republican primary. So if you're going to have any voice at all in Utah, you have to register as a Republican, whether or not you align with the party platform at all. I am registered Republican, so if anyone looks that up and thinks it's a gotcha, it's not. It's so that I can vote. Church-wise, this is where things get a little tricky because terminology matters, and members of my church, we use terms differently. Trump announced that the killer had been arrested, and he said it was a minister. There's not a position called a minister in the church. Minister is a verb. It's something you do, not something you are. So either he misheard, or if someone used the term minister, it was probably in the sense of a ministering brother or ministering sister. So this is where people who left the church don't know this always, and I've gotten at least 2 people saying that today. There were programs where women would be assigned to other women, and it's basically to look out for each other, to serve each other, to visit each other. They call them visiting teachers. You'd be in companionships, but you would go and help out. You could be on call to help out with babysitting or whatever your person needs, but you'd make an in-person visit every month. And then you'd have home teachers, which is men who would be coupled in the same way and assigned to various families, the entire family. And so visiting teachers and home teachers, female, male, they're kind of like watching out for the flock. Several years ago, I can't remember now how long it's been, 5+ probably, that program was switched over because they wanted to get away from, oh, we're just checking off a box every month. Did I do my visit or not? Now the whole program is ministering. So it's your ministering brothers and sisters. Similar concept. If I have your back, I'll serve you. I'll be your friend. If you need anything, let me know. Yada, yada. So if it was a ministering situation, it was probably someone that they knew, was a neighbor, a friend who they could call on. And someone else said it was a youth pastor who convinced Tim to turn himself in, because it sounds like his father actually said, you need to take accountability for this and turn yourself in. And he was reluctant. And then they said a youth pastor helped convince him. We don't have youth pastors. Just put that out there at all. That's not a thing. If this was a friend and a neighbor who helped convince him and had a connection with him in his youth, it was probably a young men's leader. So there's the young women's organization, there's the young men's organization, and there are leaders in both for Sunday lessons and activities and camps and all of that stuff. And all of this is lay leadership. You're called, you don't get paid for it. It's just something you do on top of your regular life. But if he had a close connection to one of his young men leaders back in the day, and then maybe that same person was assigned to his family as a ministering brother, that would explain why, oh, pastor and minister were somehow mushed into the story and don't actually fit. That's my guess. People are saying, why did the father call a friend or a pastor or whatever instead of the police? If it was to try to convince his son to turn himself in, that would make some sense. Although I do know some people who would call their bishop. Maybe the pastor/minister conversation was actually just his bishop. I don't know. I'm just speculating. This is just guesses, but educated guesses. However, so there are people who would call their bishop or home teacher/ministering brother first. That makes no sense to me. That's what Ed Smart did when Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped. He called his church leaders. I think he called home teachers and bishop before he ever called the police. Some other misunderstandings that I've seen perpetuated, they say that his father was a minister. No, not true, again, because we don't have ministers, or that his father was a bishop. I have seen nothing to corroborate that. I think that was just a misunderstanding with the whole minister conversation. Also, that his father is supposedly a retired sheriff's deputy or a retired sheriff. That is not true. Washington County Sheriff's Department actually put out a statement clarifying that there is someone named Matt Robinson who is a retired deputy, and that person just happens to have the same last name, but is no relation, no connection to the shooter in this family. So that is not true. It's a common last name. And unfortunately, this guy's name got caught up in it. I'm sure someone looked up the Robinson and found it in the records and ran with it. I do not celebrate Charlie Kirk's death. I am just horrified for his poor wife and children. I think this could have been prevented. Absolutely. At the same time, I also think that Charlie Kirk was not a hero. I don't think we should be memorializing him. He caused a lot of damage, and I'm actually going to make a video at some point soon showing some of the lowlights of what he would say. On Wednesday night, there was a family emergency type thing. It wasn't everyone's fine or whatever, but I ended up having to spend quite a bit of time stuck with Fox playing. And it was just a nonstop stream of Charlie Kirk, is this amazing human, and he was Christian, and we love him, and blah, blah, blah. Every single time they would show a clip of him speaking, whether it was the whole video or if it was just audio, it was very, very short. It was almost like it was being clipped. Like his whole statement wasn't coming across. And if you know how Charlie Kirk spoke and what he spoke about, you probably know why. This is a man who would say things like, oh, I believe in the Bible and family values, and then in the next breath say that a woman's only value is being a vessel to bear children. That, oh yes, of course I believe that everybody is a value and a child of God, but gay people should be stoned. if a black woman has any kind of position, then she stole it from a white person. Just vile, vile crap. And so I found it very telling that they could only use little tiny snippets of his voice, because what he said was usually pretty awful. I'm in the camp that believes that Robinson's 22-year-old kid was a groyper, meaning he was not radicalized far left, but he was actually radicalized far right. Farther right than Charlie Kirk. Laura Loomer and Nick Fuentes and a bunch of others have accused Charlie Kirk of not being conservative and right-wing enough, that he betrayed them by wanting the Epstein files released, yada yada. Based on some of the scratchings that we do know, that, or the engravings that we know that were on the casings, it does seem to me that he was likely a groyper and wanting Charlie to be farther right. And this had nothing to do with being left. The right's jumping onto conclusions that this was done by the Democrats, that the Democrats are the party of hate and all of these things, was disgusting, because they're the ones who caused most of the political and gun violence in this country. Statistics are what they are. And the fact that they are making him a martyr, and the fact that we had the flag was lowered to half staff. He's not an elected official. This is just a dude with a podcast and strong opinions that were actually harmful to many people. And we're doing national honors for him? Really? Where does it end? Are we going to do it when Clint Eastwood dies? Are we going to do it when Dolly Parton dies? I mean, like, where do you draw the line? And there was not an Oval Office statement when Melissa Hortman and her husband and dog were killed. There was not even a phone call to the governor of Minnesota from the president. He did not go to the funeral. It wasn't worth his breath. And instead, there were jokes from the right about this actual political assassination, including from my own disgusting Senator Mike Lee, who, yes, we are trying to get rid of him, and we almost did last time. If it weren't for Trump PAC money, we would have succeeded. Again, the gerrymandering is insane. But when Melissa Hortman was murdered, he posted jokes making fun of it. And that is disgusting to me. And moments after we heard that Charlie Kirk had been shot, before we knew that he was gone, he was saying, oh, prayers for Charlie and his family. If you want to say prayers, I get it. But you should have had the similar outrage and humanity for Melissa Hortman, for the children who died praying at school, for the children who died in the shooting the same day as that Charlie died. Where is your compassion and humanity for them? It shouldn't be just for this white dude who hated anyone who was not like him. I feel bad for his wife on several fronts. One of which is that he would just preach about how, again, a woman's value is only in being a vessel for children and raising them. And single mothers are bad people. And his death created a single mother. He did not take into account all of the factors that can contribute to a mother having to raise her children by herself. I don't think his wife will have financial troubles if he set things up well, because he was worth a lot of money. He did not approve of a woman getting an education past the age of 16. So do I mourn the fact that someone that's angry and bitter and causing harm to the country, who helped get Trump elected, is no longer with us? No. I mourn the fact how he left this earth. That is disgusting. That is horrific. And it has traumatized so many people. I accidentally saw the video, and I can't unsee it. It's disgusting, horrifying. It should not have happened. And he was not a good person. Both things can be true at once. He did so much damage to this country. And I just keep thinking how he is not a martyr. Who did January 6th? That wasn't the Democrats. Trying to hang Mike Pence. The rhetoric coming from Trump's own mouth is disgusting, and it's divisive, and it is fueling anger and trying to create battle and civil war. A lot of Republicans are saying this is war now. We need to destroy all Democrats, kill them all. People are getting death threats. But it's the Democrats who are the party of the big M? I don't think so. And they were also jumping to conclusions that the shooter was a trans leftist. No, he was a white, straight Christian kid. Unfortunately, the Wall Street Journal published that the shell casings had something like pro-trans, something written on them. Turns out, no, it was just like an imprint from the ammunition maker from Turkey, which is on millions of rounds. It had nothing to do with trans anything. But the things that we now know were inscribed on those casings, those indicate that he was likely a graper. But he wanted Charlie to be more far right than he already was and didn't approve. Regardless of where he stood on politics, the shooter or Kirk, either one, this should not have happened, period. I'll get into both news conferences soon. It's disturbing to me, some of the things that were said. Hope this helps.